and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item up is roll call. At this time, a vote will be taken to excuse any members unable to attend, and I believe we have Commissioner Bray is not with us today, and Commissioner Milton?
Correct.
So I will take a motion.
I move that we dismiss Commissioner Bray and Commissioner Milton for this evening's proceedings.
I second.
It's been properly brought up by Commissioner Kish, seconded by Commissioner Maloney, that we excuse Commissioner Bray. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4 on the agenda is the minutes. We would like to approve the draft minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on January 18th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'd like to put forth a motion to approve the minutes of the January 18th minutes.
A second.
It has been properly moved by Commissioner Maloney, seconded by Commissioner Kish to approve the minutes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. Now is the time for public comments. Any citizens who would like to address the commission on non-agenda items? Are there any speaker cards for non-agenda items tonight? Okay. If there are no cards, we will move on to the next item, item number 6, disclosure of ex parte communications. This is an opportunity for commission members to disclose any ex parte communications they may have had before this meeting in any items scheduled for discussion on this agenda. I have an item to disclose. I have had communications with the applicant on item 8.2. So I will, on staff recommendation, recuse myself from that item when it arises. Okay, item 7, old business. Is there any old business before this commission? Seeing none, we will move on to new business. I will open the public hearing. Hello, Katie.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. And I'm just waiting for the presentation to come up. Oh, there it is. And you might notice Joe Schmitz wrote the staff report for this item. He wasn't able to be here tonight, so I am presenting on his behalf. The item before you is an amendment to the La Jolla Vista PED to remove a stipulation number 35. La Jolla Vista is located at the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Lower Buckeye Road. You might remember we recently had an item, which I'll go into in more detail in a moment, at our October meeting on this La Jolla Vista subdivision recently. As you can see, adjacent to this is the existing, here, Sweetwater Estates residential neighborhood, which is in the county just to the north. The Cottonflower neighborhood is to the east and north, and then undeveloped property surrounds the rest of the area. La Jolla Vista is planned for a variety of residential densities, and you can see these two corners right here and right here were previously approved for court home, and recently that is what the change was that you saw in October, and then council approved in November to allow single-family homes on those parcels. In question is stipulation number 35. When we took the PED amendment through to the public process, we got considerable outreach from the Sweetwater Estates community to the north that they objected to the pedestrian connection, which you can see the blue arrow pointing to, that connected the La Jolla Vista subdivision to the Sweetwater Estates subdivision. Because of the way we noticed that, we couldn't consider that amendment with that application. In December, we received council direction for staff to initiate an amendment to the La Jolla Vista PAD to remove this stipulation requiring this amendment because of what we heard from the nearby residential neighborhood. One other item, something to note is the stipulation only required the pedestrian connection right here in the middle of the neighborhood. However, there are 2 other pedestrian connections that weren't required of the zoning but were being provided. Now let me see. I have it. 2 of those have to remain somewhat. There's not going to be an open pedestrian connection, but there's an RID well site, and RID needs to have access to that site, so there will be a gate there, but it will be only for RID personnel or emergency access only. It will not be open for the public. It won't be an open gate, but neighbors may see that there is actually a gate there, but as I said, it won't be for the general public to use. Again, this is highlighting the 2 areas that you saw recently in October that they rezoned those 2 areas, which is what brought forth this PAD amendment that you're considering tonight. Now, typically, the general plan does require these types of pedestrian connections. When the original rezoning went through, the school district also recommended this. However, the pedestrian connection primarily benefits the Sweetwater Estates neighborhood. And it's the Sweetwater Estates neighborhood residents who are telling us that they don't want this connection. Furthermore, it is a ways of a walk to the school site. And so because of that, staff does recommend that we approve removing this stipulation, and therefore the result will be that these pedestrian connections will not be there. As I said, there will be 2 emergency access connections to the RID facilities, but there will be no public pedestrian connections provided if this moves forward. That concludes my presentation.
What was your comment about the school and it being quite a ways?
So one of the original reasons this stipulation was added is because when this was originally gone through, the school district asked us to provide pedestrian connections so kids could walk to the school, which is located right here, the school site, which is located right here. However, and so, and again, our general plan and our vision for the community promotes walkability. However, when you look at the distance it is almost a mile. It is unlikely that a lot of kids would walk to the school because of the distance. So while the school district had originally asked us to provide that connection, it is practical to assume that most children wouldn't use that to walk to the school site.
Have there been any further comments from the school district?
No.
Thank you.
What kind of barrier is going to go up along Durango Street? Is it a wall? Is it?
Yes, and I think the applicant is here, but it is a view wall in this area, but I don't have the specific design.
Something like a 6-foot masonry wall.
I believe it's actually part masonry, part iron gate. But we can get that information to you. But those type of things are typically reviewed at the preliminary plat.
Any more questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to address the commission? No? Okay. Would anyone in the audience like to speak? I think so, because we have some speaker cards. have some instructions for speakers? No? Okay.
I apologize. I was trying to figure out how to use the microphone. Yes, comments are limited to 3 minutes, and so we will time you and give you a 30-second warning when you're at 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So please wrap up your comments at that time.
Okay, I will call your name if you've submitted a card, and please give your name and address so that we can take your information down for the record. First item is from, forgive me if I get this wrong, Christian Vitea David. Thanks for coming down.
How you doing? My name is Christian Vitea David. My address is 1718 South 177th Avenue. And the problem with the pathway is, again, I don't know why we're even back here again. I thought this was done way back when, but having access and having all our people or all our kids go to that school, when she means all our kids to our school, she means the 4, right? Like, because the parents drop them off in front of my house, in front of their bus stop. So all those kids have access. There's only 4 kids. There's no need to put a whole access and change our development. My family's been out there since 71, and I'm trying to buy the property. And it seems like every time I come here, you guys never even listen to what I have to say. It's just repeating every single thing, and I guarantee people are going to say the same thing. They don't want the pathway through here because they have opened irrigation and canals. Yeah, now you're going to put fencing up. Oh, so now we have to change our lifestyle because you're going to have people come accessing it, that people have dogs down the chain link fence, and their dogs are going to be coming at the fence, people walking up and down the street, and for them to say that they have access through there, if you even go just a little bit further down to the next, which is not on here on the screen, if you go a little bit farther down the street, all those houses, the majority of those houses for the school, even if they would go to that school, can come to that other neighborhood through there, which is more designed for people to even access through there because they got parks, and it leads right to the school where they're going to be building the school to. Our neighborhood is our neighborhood. We're not antisocial people like the government or the governor said last time, but, you know, it's like we got to change our ways now because you guys want to have easy access for other neighborhood kids to get through, which is really not. You guys have all that access through the other side, which is even bigger. They got the sidewalks. You guys got the lights. You guys got the bicycle paths for the kids. It's more well-designed for kids of that age to go through there, not for our kids to go through there, the 4 that go through that school. So I think the whole plan to have a pathway and to save time and all that, I guarantee if it's 110, the majority of the parents are going to still drive their kids to the school anyways. So the whole, they need that. I mean, I feel like we're changing our lifestyle in one way or another. I mean, I'm fortunate enough I haven't bought the house yet, but some people don't have that choice, and they're stuck with or without your guys' decision. And for them to even come here right now, it kind of blows my mind because it's just repeating the same thing we've already told you. We just don't want it. And it's not like we're being, like I said, again, antisocial. It's just the lifestyle that we have. We live behind that. We live that way for a reason. We just don't want all these people coming through here, which sounds fine to you guys when you're here, but in the early
30
mornings,
seconds.
people walking up and down the street or people coming home at a certain time. Oh, come on, dogs, let me get my dogs in and make sure they're quiet. I know you can't change growing population, but you can change a whole bunch of people coming down access through certain times for no reason at all. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. If I understand this motion correctly, if the motion passes, the result is going to be that there will be no public access through Durango.
Chairman, that is correct. The recommendation of staff is to remove the public access.
Okay, the next person up on the speaker cards is Mr. James Boehm. Please give us your name and address, sir.
My name is James Boehm. I live at 1726 South 176th Avenue. Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. We were at the last meeting, and there's actually 4 exits to Durango. The one way on the right, where the circle is at, that's for emergency use. The one next to it is for irrigation. Then the green line is the 3rd one, and down at the other circle down at the other end, there's another access that was brought up at the building commission at the last meeting that he didn't know about. So it needs to be addressed. And we like the last gentleman, we're not antisocial, but we bought in an unincorporated area because we have animals. We like the way we live. We're all acre and a quarter properties, and we don't want the people coming through because they aggravate our animals. And we thought this was over in December, and then we find out in January about the building commission. He told us about that third exit. We don't mind the two on the right. We understand that they have to be for, the one has to be for emergency vehicles. We don't care about that. They can do that one. They can do the one for the irrigation. But the other two is what we're objecting about. That she didn't bring up the third one, the fourth one up there. That we object to also. That was brought up at the planning meeting. So that's all I have to say. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Nope.
There we go. Sorry. Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification. The recommendation from staff is for every single pedestrian access to the north to be blockaded, except for those points where the RID needs to access their infrastructure. So I just want to make sure that the commission is clear on that. Citizens, participants, other interested parties are all clear on that.
So just the one for the well access, is it?
The only accesses will be for RID to be able to get to their infrastructure.
Okay, very good. We have one more speaker card. Again, forgive me if I massacre your name. Eileen Hardy. I apologize. You're right. This is for another item. Okay. Am I allowed to consider any more?
Yes, ask if there's anybody else who
Are
wishes
there
to speak.
any other people present that would like to speak on this issue? I would like to, please. Thank you. Please give us your name and address when you step forward.
Good evening. My name is Ken Bradley. I am at 1901 South 177th Avenue, the corner of Durango and 177th. Thank you all for being here and the work you do. I want to thank the planning and zoning folks for all the work they've done. Too bad Joe can't be here tonight, but they've done a great job. We're happy that you have clarified, Mr. Baker, that we're going to have basically a solid no pedestrian access through there, all nice and fine. I do have one question, though, because it mentioned as needed for RID access, but it also says here for as needed by emergency vehicles and personnel. At the neighborhood planning meeting, Joe said they were probably going to put a gate, a permanent gate, but it would be permanently closed, but only fire department would have access to come, or emergency to come through that gate. One of the concerns that we have, and my neighbor can talk about that better than I, is that we're afraid it may become a gateway to annexation down the road. I've been there for 15 years, and the city loves to sniff around to see if we want to be annexed in. That's just part of the way things are. We really are not in favor of that. So my thoughts are, and it's probably not really relevant here, but just that is not going to become a future access gateway point into, well, let's just pull this gate out and open the road in, blah, blah, blah. So, but nonetheless, as things stand, I would go with the recommendation that planning has. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we will move to commission discussion. Are there any discussion items between the commission? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move on with item number 17210000001, amending the stipulation that there should be a walkway.
Point of order, Chairman. Can you please close the public hearing?
Oh, at this time, we will close the public hearing.
And now may you make the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 17210000001, removing the stipulation of a walkway to Durango Street.
I second that motion.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kish, seconded by Commissioner Keys. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. At this point, I will recuse myself for this item and turn things over to staff.
So, point of order, we actually need to elect a chairman just for this item since the chairman is absent and Randy has recused himself and as vice chair. So we'll need you'll need to make a motion to nominate somebody. As you can see, you have a volunteer, but we need you to officially move that, please.
I move that we nominate Chairman Maloney to act as chairman for item number 16210000009.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Second item on the docket is 8.2, and it's 16210000009 to amend the Palm Valley 303 pad to change the land use on 4 parcels from general commercial to light industrial. And we have.
Point of order, we need you to open the public hearing.
Oh, and we'd like to open up the public hearing.
Madam Chair, Commission members, this is a PAD amendment for the Palm Valley 303. The PAD, this area outlined in the heavy black line, was approved, basically as you see it today, was approved in 2008. Surrounding this area, we have portions of Palm Valley and Pebble Creek to the east. To the north, we have properties within the undeveloped properties within the county. To the west, we have a couple industrial parks planned and undeveloped agricultural land. To the south here, we have the State Correctional Facility. This right here is the Loop 303. We have REI, Dick's, and Sub-Zero, and that new spec building going in here that you've probably seen coming up. Four parcels are subject of tonight's PAD amendment. We have parcel here, 32 acres. Here's another one, about 65. Go through this one. We have another parcel here, about 124 acres, and another parcel here, 25 acres. The proposal is to go from general commercial to light industrial. And part of the reason is that off the map here to the northeast is Luke Air Force Base. As you can see on this drawing, we have the 65 LDN noise contour here and here. So the PAD is basically sandwiched in between those noise contours. We also have eight accident potential zones 1 and 2 that encompass much of the property. And per the narrative, and as you saw in the staff report, the applicant views light industrial use as the best use for this property, especially given the constraints of having Luke Air Force Base. Typical uses in the light industrial category are distribution, manufacturing, and warehouses. And again, those type of uses usually involve less assembly, not a lot of people, so those are favorable to Luke Air Force Base. Also, as part of this PAD amendment, the applicant did revise their naming conventions for their 6 phases. You see the east and west convention that they're using. They also reformatted their PAD book to reflect this and to consolidate information. Notice for the citizen review meeting and for this public hearing and for council that was with a postcard mailed to all property owners within 500 feet of the affected parcels. We placed legal ads in the newspaper. We also posted all 4 properties with the white notice signs that you've seen around. Staff did receive 1 phone call from a resident of Pebble Creek. They were opposed to any additional traffic on Indian School Road. At the citizen review meeting, we did have 2 attendees. Topics of discussion included truck traffic, building heights, and type of uses that would be allowed with the light industrial. Luke Air Force Base has reviewed the amendment. They've determined that this will not negatively impact their flying operations. Staff has reviewed the PAD amendment. We find that the light industrial will be compatible with the surrounding area for those reasons as we've outlined in the staff report. We do find that the proposed amendment will be consistent with the general plan designation of light industrial and business and commerce on the property. We do find the light industrial zoning is compatible. As such, we are recommending approval of the PAD amendment, subject to the 1 stipulation in the staff report. That includes my presentation. Staff's available for any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Would anybody like to address the commission? Speaker cards? Does anybody have any speaker cards?
There's 1 speaker card you should have.
Eileen? Eileen, would you state your last name and your address, please, for the commission?
My name is Eileen Hardy, and the address I have on my speaker card is the address of the property that I'm representing that I own. It's at the corner of PV 303 and Indian School, 303 and Indian School. It's just that little triangular corner piece just southwest of the northeast hash mark lot, east H, or however that thing's identified. And my concern, I don't have any issues with the zoning being changed to light industrial from general commercial, but my concern is that if the building heights get raised to the 70-foot height that light industrial allows, it's going to dwarf the monument signage that's on the corners. And my ex-husband and I happen to own the corner that's going to have the monument signage on it, on that lot. The limit of the height on the monument is 56. I'm wondering if this has in any way been addressed in looking at this upgrade. I mean, would we need to rezone our monument to light industrial so we could have a 70-foot monument?
Let me get some clarification for you.
Well, we can, are those all your comments you have?
It's totally a concern about signage. I'm not sure if anybody's addressed the signage because that property goes all the way north and east of our property. And if they were to build 70-foot buildings close to the boundaries of the property, the signage would be completely dwarfed and possibly not visible to people.
Yeah, we can have staff address that.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commission members, with this property and then this triangular piece, the light industrial does allow a taller building height, 75 feet. With this application, we are just looking at land use changes we do not require, and we have not seen any site plans. So we do not know building heights or anything like that, any specific information at this point. Again, it's, as you've seen in staff report, it's purely a land use type of review, and that's as technical as we get at this stage. Signage and such, there is a master plan of signage for all of PV 303. That is a document that is part of the PAD. That there have been no changes to that bit proposed with this. That's another issue down the road. At this point, we're just looking at land use at this point.
Anybody else that would like to speak? Questions?
I do understand her concern in regards to the signage. It just, I don't know how to even see that far ahead, or I don't know if her signage would be affected by the height of buildings. At what point would we address any possible harm to her signage? At what point would we even look at that?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. I would, as Steve Carrecchia stated, the sign program is a separate document, and I would recommend coming in for a pre-application meeting so we can look at the signage, which is a separate comprehensive sign program.
Chair, Commission members, that signage is comprehensive to the entire PAD. Mm-hmm. So that signage is not necessarily for one parcel. The signage throughout all of that 1,600 acres, it's a comprehensive plan of signage. So that signage is for branding, it's for description of tenants. We don't know at this point, but it was designed to meet the needs of the property owners within that center. There's several large distribution centers in there, so the signage did take into account the big box type of users.
Would the young lady be able to change her signage based upon the need to, if that building were to go high enough? I guess maybe, is that a legitimate concern? Because I understand if she's butting up against a huge building, then that would be an issue.
Madam Chairman, Commissioner Kish, we would encourage the concerned citizen who spoke at the meeting to contact us for a pre-application meeting, and we would be more than delighted to speak with them about any of their concerns or what they would like to change or move forward with at that time.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just as a point of clarification, we can potentially go forward with the motion to approve the land use with the stipulation that a pre-application meeting, no stipulation.
Two separate issues.
Right.
So tonight, what's before you is the land use change on these 4 parcels. Anybody at any time can request a pre-application or due diligence meeting to discuss topics and allow us to do some research and things of that nature. We're always open for that. That is not necessary to have a stipulation. That's just what we do as a city. It's part of our normal course of business. So I would encourage you to act on the application that has been made before you.
Great, and I just want to hear from Eileen one more time, making sure she understands what's being offered and is that acceptable? Yes, for right now. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Can I have a motion and a second?
Point of order, can you please close the public hearing?
Oh, sorry. Public hearing is closed.
And I do just want to provide information that because of the number of commissioners we have at the table, it requires 4 votes to pass.
In order for this to pass, we need 4 votes. Yep. So can I have a motion and a second for the 16210000009?
I motion we approve the amendment 16210000009, the PV 303 pad to change the land use on 4 parcels from general commercial to light industrial.
Second the motion.
So it was approved. It was motion by Keyes, Commissioner Keyes, and Commissioner what?
Walters.
Walters. Approved.
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 For vote.
Call for vote.
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? It's been approved.
Thank you, Chairman Maloney. We will now ask Chairman Barnes to come back, and so you can take your seat. We appreciate you running the meeting.
Watching Netflix. Next item is 8.3, and I will open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park is located between Cotton Lane on the west and Saraville Avenue on the east, and Elwood Street on the north, and MC 85 on the south. Recently, Opus Development purchased 95 acres at the southeast corner of Cotton and Commerce Drive, adjacent to Macy's and across the street from Amazon. Opus is asking to amend 2 of the PAD development standards, but only for a rail-served building facing Cotton Lane, should that type of user come to the site. The standards are the prohibition of loading areas, loading docks, and truck trailer parking facing Cotton, and the 50-foot maximum allowed building height. The amendment, of course, then would allow the loading areas and loading docks and truck trailer parking to face Cotton. And the amendment also is to allow silos, tanks, and similar unoccupied structures to go up to 65 feet. Opus is proposing screening that includes 2 rows of 24-inch box trees, a 6-foot wall on a 2-foot berm or an 8-foot wall, trailers to be parked 50 feet from the property line, and truck bay doors 300 feet from the Cotton Lane curb. We are recommending, in addition to the wall berm, trailers at 50 feet, and the bay doors at 300, that there be 1 row of 24-inch box trees supplemented by a 2nd row of 36-inch box trees. And this modification is being proposed by staff in an effort to provide additional screening from the onset and increase sustainability for those trees as they continue to grow. We are recommending approval of the amendment, subject to the 5 stipulations in your staff report, and the modification that we are proposing is incorporated into stip number 5, and we ask that the Commission recommend approval as well per staff stipulations. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions for Karen? Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to address the Commission?
Okay. Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm here representing Opus. I'm happy to make a presentation if you want one or need one, but I also recognize we're here with a staff recommendation for approval, subject to stipulations which are acceptable to Opus. Unless you have cards of speakers that are concerned with our request, we're comfortable with the recommendation if your Commission is comfortable. I don't want to make a presentation if you don't need it or want it, but I'm happy to do so if you'd like one.
Do commissioners require a presentation?
Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak on this matter? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it to discussion from the Commission. The items of discussion?
No.
Seeing none, I will ask for a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 162100007 with staff approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kish and seconded by Commissioner Maloney. I'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Do I get to hit the gavel again at this point? No? Okay.
Let the power go to your head.
Yeah.
If I was Khrushchev, I could hit a shoe.
Use your shoe.
Okay, item 8.4. This is not a public hearing, so.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. This next item is for Pebble Creek, Phase 2, Unit 48. If you take a look at the map, the clubhouse is located just to the east of the site. This is the model village within Pebble Creek. Clubhouse Drive connects to this unit or this parcel. There's 46.76 acres and 130 single-family lots with 11 tracks. Pebble Creek does have private streets that are privately maintained. The parcel will be accessed off Monterey Way, which connects to an existing parcel within Pebble Creek. Like I said, there was a connection off of Clubhouse Drive, and then future connections between other parcels within Pebble Creek as well. Fire Station 185 is located at the entry of Pebble Creek Phase 2, about 1.2 miles from this parcel. Compliance with all development regulations and technical requirements have been satisfied, and staff recommends approval. The applicant is here if you have any questions for him.
Thank you. Any questions for Alex? No. Would the applicant like to speak? No? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up to the commission for discussion. Any discussion on this item? No. Okay, then I will ask for a motion and second.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 165000009, preliminary plat for Pebble Creek Phase 2, Unit 48.
Second the motion.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kish and seconded by Commissioner Walters. Did I get that right? Walters. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes.
Thank
you. The next item, 8.5, I will open the public hearing on.
Did
I miss something?
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I apologize. This next item is a request to amend the city's zoning ordinance. There's two amendments that will be taking place with the same action item. The Article 1 will remove reference to Section 9.2, and the amendment to Article 9 removes Section 9.2 in its entirety. Just kind of a preview of the presentation I have for you. We'll talk about what the City Center Gateway Overlay District is, the purpose of why it was implemented, the current status of its implementation, and what we won't change with removing it, and the recommendation. So the City Center Gateway Overlay District is a special district in the zoning ordinance. Article 9, just an abridged version of a abridged definition of what a special district is an area that requires special regulations and approval processes in addition to underlying zoning district requirements. Just for reference, the city currently has two special districts, which is the City Center Gateway Overlay and the Freeway Development Overlay District. So we have zoning classifications and development regulations for these special zones in all areas of the city, or not special zones, for all zonings in the city, but areas within the overlay districts have extra requirements for different and special reasons. So, as we all know, or at least as we should know, the city center has been designated for the area surrounding the intersection of Yuma Road and Estrella Parkway. This city center location is not changing. The city center gateway overlay district was adopted in 2003. It connects the, go back to this map, it connects the planned regional center, which is Estrella Falls and the mall, to the city center development. With it, a city center gateway overlay streetscape plan manual, which is a completely separate document, was adopted, and this applies to Estrella Parkway all the way to MC 85. The intent of the City Center Gateway Overlay District was to impose enhanced development standards for the district and serve as a primary gateway into central parts of Goodyear. Excuse me. So we have a regional center. Oops, I'm going to go back here really quick. We have the regional center and a city center, and we wanted to use Estrella Parkway to create a main street between the two. And when the district was implemented, this overlay district was the leverage that the city had to require design enhancements, since the city's design guidelines were not substantial at that time. So the current status of the city center overlay district and what didn't work about it, we have existing commercial centers that were built in accordance with the overlay district. They were focusing on pedestrian connectivity and building buildings closer to property lines to create a more urban and pedestrian-friendly environment. The overlay district regulations were implemented, but as you can see, for example, this is Roosevelt and Estrella Parkway. The backs of buildings were put up against the street, so it wasn't as pedestrian-friendly and didn't turn out as we had originally anticipated. Just a few more current status blurbs. What we've discovered now is that it's no longer necessary to have the overlay. It's adding time to the development process. For example, hotels are allowed in commercial districts, but within the overlay district, it requires a use permit, which is a public approval process and can add about 3 to 4 months. So it's slowing development within this corridor. We now have the city's new design guidelines, which were adopted in 2014 and applied to the whole city. A lot of the requirements in the design guidelines more broadly represent the intent of the overlay district. For example, pedestrian connectivity, design enhancements, and architecture are all important elements within the city's design guidelines. And then we also have the ballpark, which was built in 2008. It was an incredible addition to Estrella Parkway, but it requires heavier traffic along Estrella Parkway, so that pedestrian friendliness is no longer needed. Or we still want that intent, but it's no longer as important. So what won't change with this amendment is this, like I said, the Streetscape Plan Manual. It's still a useful tool in providing a consistent, high-quality streetscape along Estrella Parkway, so we'll keep that implemented. The city center, like I mentioned as well, this is a specific area plan and has a PAD overlay, so that will not change. The current zoning of all properties underneath the overlay are not changing zoning districts. The ballpark, when it was built, it didn't adhere to the overlay district regulations, so it won't be impacted by this amendment. And then the neighborhoods, the city center overlay district did not apply to single-family residential in the first place, and it won't be affected by this amendment either. Public notifications were sent out by a display ad in the newspaper. We sent postcards to all property owners within the overlay district and property owners within 500 feet of the overlay district. We did receive some phone calls and emails just asking for clarification, because sometimes it's hard to put it all on a little postcard. We held a neighborhood meeting on January 26th, 2017. There were 6 residents who attended. They were all curious and just asked for further clarification of what that meant and what that was changing with their surrounding properties. But they didn't. I have not heard a negative response to the change. Therefore, we recommend approval. And Katie, Christopher, and I can all answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I have a question. So what happens to the Yuma intersection? That was the intersection that at one time was planned for the big government city center, right?
Correct. Thank
So
you.
what happens now?
It's still it's still there. It's still envisioned for that intersection. There's really no changes. Katie'd like to clarify a little bit more.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. Just to get specific, there is a specific area plan for the city center. There's also PAD zoning for the city center. Both of those documents will not change. So the plan for the city center remains the same. What this did was created a certain look leading to the city center. So there were standards of the property leading to the city center, but it didn't necessarily impact the city center itself. So no changes.
And when you say look, are we talking about the elevations of buildings so that they still have a specific criteria they have to meet and consistency requirement that they have to meet and beautification, landscaping? Because I noticed you had that particular piece in there that we still are having a model for these buildings. I just wanted clarification that none of that will change. It's just literally they won't have to have special use permits to build certain motels, hospitals, those type of things. Is that correct?
So I think the applicant is the city in this item. So you have spoken.
We are here.
But I can still ask if anyone in the audience wants to speak on this matter. Okay, seeing none, I will close the not public hearing and open the commission up to discussion.
No.
Okay, then I will ask for a motion and second.
No. Okay, I motion to approve, let's see, 16-220-00004 zoning ordinance amendment to remove the city center gateway overlay district.
I second.
Wait, is that the right number? Is it 9?
No, it's 4.
Is it 1-5? Okay, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Okay. Who's second?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Commissioner Keys and seconded by Commissioner Kish. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Next item up, 8.6. Welcome back.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission.
Oh, do I say open the public hearing? Open
Yes.
the public hearing.
We have another zoning ordinance text amendment before you. This one proposes to allow inert material landfills to be considered by special use permit. So let me explain that a little bit. There are what we call borrow pits within the city. There's one located, you may have seen it before, on Roosevelt near the Walmart. This is Walmart right here. And there's basically a large pit nearby. There's another one located, it's a little harder to see, but this is the Trotter Track. This is Interstate 10, and there's another one located there. What those borrow pits are is when I-10 was constructed, they took the dirt from these pits to build up I-10. We have elevated freeways, leaving a big hole in the ground. We have other freeways planned in the future, the Loop 303, State Route 30. So we anticipate that these will be constructed in the future as well, but we already have 2 existing. There is, so one way to fill these in or remediate them is to allow what's called an inert material landfill. An inert material landfill is nothing like a sanitary landfill. We call it inert material because they're non-biodegradable. So it doesn't create those gases and odors that you think of when you think of a sanitary landfill. It's construction debris, concrete, dirt, sand, those type of materials. The purpose is to fill in the land so that it could someday be developed. So it actually becomes an asset to the community rather than being an attractive nuisance. Nowhere in the zoning ordinance today do we address this. We have sanitary landfill addressed in the zoning ordinance, but really this isn't the same type of landfill. This is what we would consider a temporary use, because the purpose is to go in, fill these pits up, and then develop with some other type of use, where a sanitary landfill is pretty much permanent. And I say temporary can be 5 to 10 years. And so that is why staff is recommending, 1, adding 2 new definitions. A definition for a public borrow pit and a definition for inert material landfill, so we can be clear what we mean by those. And then in our special use permit, an inert material landfill can be considered in any zoning district. Just so you know, this has come about because of the existing borrow pit that's near the Walmart. Somebody has purchased that and would like to conduct one of these uses, so you will be seeing that at a future date before you for consideration. But tonight's meeting, I just want to be clear, is not to allow this in any specific area. It's just to amend the zoning ordinance so that these can be considered by commission. It would fall under the typical special use permit criteria then when you consider these: impact to surrounding neighborhoods, noise, hours of operation, traffic, when we're considering if these are appropriate, or what kind of stipulations you'd like to add to them so that they can operate appropriately depending on what happens to be next door. Even the 2 examples I showed you could see this one next to residential may have different considerations than the one by the old trotter track that doesn't have residents near it. So that's the purpose of a special use permit, is to consider what's directly adjacent and consider each piece of property individually. We did provide notice with a display ad. I have not received any questions or concerns since we noticed the text amendment. Therefore, staff recommends approving the zoning ordinance text amendment, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
So this isn't for city-owned lots. This is any city, private, anybody could do this.
Thank you, Chairman. Absolutely. Both of the examples I gave you are privately owned property. We said it's for a public project, and the purpose of that is we just didn't want an instance where someone might buy a piece of land, sell the dirt, create a pit, and then create this. Where we're trying to keep it as the purpose of is more when we have these large construction project, ADOT comes in, creates these. It's for a public benefit that these are created. And so we're trying to help the private property owners put these properties back to right because it's a benefit to the community.
So will we designate any qualifications, for instance, soils testing to make sure that you're not putting expansive or radioactive soil, or, you can't just put boulders in there? Or is that going to be up to the landowner to regulate that?
Thank you, Chairman. And again, since we have had somebody contact us about this one, we're actually going through this exercise right now. And again, we'll talk about that specific one at a future meeting date. But for example, we can do things like require, I'm losing, like boring to make sure the compaction rates are per standards. The building code, International Building Code, gives standards of compaction rates depending on what you want to develop on top of it once it's filled in. So those are things we can require through a special use permit, is we can approve it subject to you providing all those items, that there's regular inspections by a qualified engineer. Those types of things are things you can when you approve the special use permit, you can require.
Okay. Katie, I have a question. When somebody buys or wants to build on land, do they have the right to know that this is landfilled and what it's filled with?
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioner Maloney. That's a great question. The city doesn't necessarily get involved in that. That would be some disclosure between the buyer and the seller of the property. we will do our best to make sure it's compacted and it's per all standard requirements. But any future buyer, it would be up to them. But if commission were concerned about it, that is a stipulation you could put on a special use permit, that a disclosure statement be added that this, that a certain piece of property was used as an inert material landfill.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interject 1 second, if you'll indulge me for a moment. As Katie's pointing out, there is the ability to have stipulations on the special use permit, and I would suspect that as this moves forward for any inert landfill in the city, you would see stipulations regarding compaction testing, material testing, and the like. In addition to, I believe, Commissioner Maloney's point, you would also likely see stipulations regarding putting in the public sales report those disclosures, much like we do with the agricultural areas or the Arizona Motorsports Park or the overflight areas from Luke Air Force Base. So the city would be doing its best effort in order to give the opportunity for future property owners the ability to inform themselves.
But the property owner, if they were to create one of these, I mean, they still have control over who can come and dump. It's not just open to the public. Once it's designated, anybody can dump there. That the owner has control, I would assume.
Thank you, Chairman. The owner does have control, but again, we can put stipulations on certain items, such as the hours of operation, what type of materials go into the landfill. There are things that relate to the operation of the land use. We can stipulate to ensure that it's compatible with surrounding property.
Oh, Katie, so first of all, thank you for educating me on what a public project borrow pit is, because I've asked myself so many times, what is that? And now I know what it is. But have you done any inquiry on whether this is a common practice or a common solution in similar situated cities and towns?
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Walters, that is a great question. I know that there's not many of these inert material landfills operating. We were trying to do research, and there are we know of one in Prescott Valley, but there's not a registration, so it's not easy to find them either. But it is common to fill a borrow pit with an inert material landfill.
Okay, so to be clear, we're just today being asked to consider the concept, not to approve any particular permit for such a landfill at either of these locations or anywhere else, right?
That is correct. If this is approved by commission tonight, it sets the rules. Nothing in the community will change or happen as a result of tonight's meeting on the ground at a certain parcel.
Right, I think you can anticipate from our questions that we're going to have a lot of questions about the nature of any particular future request and the regulations and disclosures and all of that kind of detail, because it's a new concept to us. Thank you.
More questions?
One thing that I noticed that's not in the definition, or is there a stipulation somewhere of the amount of time that this can be used for? You did say that it was going to be temporary, which was 5 to 10 years, but I drive by it every day. I live like right there. So, I mean, I just didn't know if that's something that is being considered in terms of how long they're going to have that there.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Kish. There's not a set time frame. Basically, that's part of the special use permit review. Okay. Each special use is given consideration, and again, it's given consideration of the surrounding area, how developed, because again, if you think about it, maybe a site in the middle of the Rainbow Valley area, you'd be comfortable with allowing for 20 years, but a site in central Goodyear, you'd want a shorter time frame on. Those are things you can look at and review with the special use permit for a specific site, taking into consideration what's happening near that site.
Any more questions for Katie? Thank you. So, again, the city is the applicant, so I will not ask the applicant if they want to speak. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this item? Please come forward, sir. Give us your name one more time.
Bull 702 East Osborne. Merely to answer Commissioner Walters' question as to whether this is being done elsewhere or elsewhere here in the Valley, it is. Let me disclose, first of all, we do represent the property owner who owns the facility that's referenced as being kind of southwest of the Walmart site. In that context, we're very comfortable with the proposed text amendment as recommended by staff, and we recognize through the use permit process there'll be various questions and control measures put in place. But with respect to another example of where this is being done here in the Valley, we represent on various things a very high-end home builder who is engaged in this very process of filling. There's two large pits in North Phoenix adjacent to a very high-end residential neighborhood. One of the pits is being preserved for stormwater retention and enhanced some. The other pit is being filled with inert material and compacted strata by strata appropriately according to industry standards and so on, with the intention of ultimately being developed with a residential subdivision adjacent to very high-end homes that I believe will look forward to having a subdivision rather than a pit next to it. That's a very high-quality home builder. Engineers looking at this, looking at that. I had the opportunity of working with that builder and the city of Phoenix and half of the engineers in Phoenix City Hall to figure out how to do it. But it's well underway, and by all indications, it will be an example of a success story here in the Valley of taking an eyesore and turning it into something beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up to the commission for discussion. Is there any further discussion? No. Okay, then I will accept a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 17220000001, creating a text amendment to allow inert material landfills of special use in any zoning district.
I second.
It has been properly moved by Commissioner Kish and seconded by Commissioner Maloney. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion passes. The next item up is 8.7, and we get Katie one more time.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. We have before you yet another zoning ordinance text amendment. This one is to create an expiration for applications made to the Development Services Department. We are proposing having applications that are inactive for 6 months, giving staff the authority to expire those applications. And I want to stress that our purpose here is to not be punitive to our customers, but to provide clarification to both staff and our customer. We've come across this in many instances. As you can imagine, in 2008, 2009, many of our projects came to a screeching halt. And we have recently had many inquiries of, can we restart a project that is 5 years old, 10 years old, may have gone through several reviews with staff, and there's just no it's truly just not clear when an application is considered expired. There are certain type of applications that we do know when they're expired. For example, when we adopted a new general plan, we consider old rezoning cases expired because we have brand new rules to work with. It's a brand new case. Our annexation applications expire because that specifically is called out as having a time frame in which you have to work. So there's specific applications that do have this. We did research in other communities. The majority of the other communities do give 6 months. The exception was Peoria, which gives 12 months. The engineering department is going through an update to the engineering design standards, and they're going to be doing the same thing, and they are proposing 6 months as well. So internally, we thought it made sense if everybody in our departments had the same rules, so it's easy for our customers, easy for staff to know all applications basically will have this 6 month. We do want to work with our customers. So internally, we plan to give our customers a 30-day notice. You're coming up on this expiration deadline, so you either need to resubmit your materials or request an extension. So again, our purpose is not to be punitive to our customers, but just to keep applications moving forward for both their benefit and our benefit. Now, we are not proposing this change wouldn't be effective retroactively. Like I said, some applications do expire in the past, but again, just to work well with our customers and be clear on new rules, this change would be moving forward. That is all I have for this item, so I am happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Katie?
So just for clarification, what you're saying is this is day forward. So that which is in the inventory right now, are you going to be working with any of those applicants, or are you just going to consider them non-expiring?
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner Keys. I'm working on how we identify those. Several of them are applicants we work with often, so if we can get something in writing from them saying, yes, let's all consider it expired, we can clear some of those out and get them on our inventory. But there shouldn't be too many that pop up. We've just seen this a lot because of the downturn obviously impacted our applications.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No. Would anyone in the audience like to speak on this matter? Our distinguished attorney, you represent a lot of developers, do you not? Okay. I mean, if you want to come provide your opinion to the commission, we're welcome to hear it. I'm setting you up if you can.
Yeah. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I had not intended to speak, so my comments will be brief. If I understand the text amendment correctly, it's for applications that are dormant, because there's lots of applications that we work on for more than 6 months, but I presume as long as we're actively working on them, this doesn't apply. And I fully appreciate, I don't know if 6 months is the right number or not, because time does fly, but I do appreciate that if there's dormant applications gathering cobwebs, it's important for staff and others to know whether they're still alive or not. I don't know what the mechanism is if 6 months is coming up and the application's been dormant, but it's about to become alive again for whatever reason. But I trust Katie and other staff to be fair and inappropriate in how that's administered.
And I'll go back to Katie. So the 6-month clock starts when the city council approves and you send out the letter to the applicant saying you're good to go.
Thank you, Chairman. That was an excellent question for clarification. What it is, you know, when an application is submitted to staff, we route it internally. We provide a written comment letter to the applicant. Then they submit materials back to us responding to our comments. And hopefully we only do that once or twice, but that can go back and forth on complex projects a few times. And then we either approve it administratively if it's a case, you know, type that we do that, or then we bring it forward to this body for action. So what this 6 months is saying is from the time we send the customer that comment letter, if we don't hear from them at all for 6 months, that's when we can take action. So if they're resubmitting to us, even if they're actively working and we know there's some issues, sometimes we run into issues where a customer's having problems with RID, you know, and they're not, if there's something like that going on, our intent is not to stop a customer who's actively pursuing an application. It's just once in a while, somebody wants to purchase a piece of property, they start submitting applications, and then they just walk away from the deal. So we don't have any written authorization from them that the application is withdrawn, and we just don't hear from them. It's those cases where we want to say, all right, if we don't hear from you from 6 months, we gave you a 30-day warning, we still didn't hear any request to extend it or resubmit, then we can call this one closed.
I saw in there that an applicant can request a 3-month extension. How many times can they request that? I mean, I can see somebody, especially with a larger project, having financing issues. For instance, the mall, or bringing in tenants, and they still want to do it, but they just can't pull the trigger on the project. I could see it stretching out 24 months, and then they don't want to start all over again if there hasn't been any changes. So, I mean, will we give that kind of consideration?
Thank you, Chairman. We do have it written as a one-time 90-day extension, but hopefully there shouldn't be instances of where financing is getting involved, because if a property wants to build a new commercial center and they need to rezone the property and get a site plan, they should submit for a rezone and take that to a decision. And then if it's taking them a long time between the rezoning and site plan, that's fine, because they haven't submitted an application or anything. But then if they submit that site plan and we go through 2 reviews and then a year goes by and we've never heard from them, it's also fair to really the citizens, because we collect a fee so that we're using citizens' taxpayer money wisely, that if they need to restart that project, it's almost like doing a first review and taking a first look. And so it's fair to charge them that fee, so we're recouping 100% of city costs. So that's part of it too. So again, projects do stall sometimes, but typically it's after an approval has already happened, and then they're fine.
Okay, so that was the note I just made, and I want to make sure I understand the financial impact.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry if I can interject 1 second, Mr. Chairman, Commission. As Katie was alluding to, this is not proposing to impact construction activity or anything. This is about planning applications, which is rezoning applications, special use permits, site plans, and preliminary and final plats. So once we get to a decision, and what we mean by that as far as decision on those type of applications would be council action, approval or denial, or I guess in this case it would be approval, or staff approval as well. Not the submission of building plans or civil plans and then actual construction work. That's a different sort of different animal. What we're talking about is planning applications. Does that make sense?
So is this more for projects that are in the middle of the process and they kind of drop off, or is it more for projects that completed the process and they just haven't started construction yet?
Projects in the middle of the process that drop off.
Or beginning. Or even
yeah,
I would say beginning
really.
And mid. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's not proposing to change anybody's entitlements. So let's put that out there. If you are rezoning, or if there's a person or entity going through a rezoning and it's approved by council, it's approved, and that's the end of the story. That's what it is. So we're not rescinding an entitlement or anything of that nature after approval.
So I'm just trying to return back to the financial impact to the applicant. So they have to pay another fee to restart the application. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Just wondering how they feel about that. If you had any comments, have you floated any of this?
We published it in a display ad and have it on our website.
Okay.
I mean, of course, customers, applicants would like to pay as little fee as they possibly can. Sure. But that's part of the issue that we see, is that we assume, I think, 2 reviews in our fee structure. Okay. So if you've done those 2 reviews,
right,
and 2 years go by and then you get a resubmittal, we're doing work that hasn't been paid for.
Sure.
Basically. Sure. So what it could really impact are those rezonings. because those can get very expensive, and I think that's where we would get the most concern from our rezoning cases.
Got it.
But yeah.
They might be expedited as well because people are going to understand that there's a penalty for not following through.
Yeah. And that's our hope by giving a 30-day notice is
right.
We want our customers to keep moving forward. The goal here is to keep projects moving forward, and those projects where someone just walked away from a deal, it's not happening, we can close those out.
Thank you.
Any more questions for staff? Nope. Thank you, Katie. Any discussions among the commission? I think it's a. Did you have something? I think it's a fair idea. The only thing I might like to see is that staff have the flexibility to extend past 1 3-month period if they deem it's appropriate. So if someone offers up a motion of approval, can we say, we approve this motion, but we recommend that staff be allowed to authorize more than one extension if they deem it appropriate?
We understand what you're saying, and if the commission approves that, we'll make the necessary changes to the text before it goes to council.
In that case, I will hear a motion and second, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number 16220000003 with the understanding that if staff finds it appropriate to extend the 3-month period, that they may do so. More than 3 months. Did I say that correctly? I just want to make sure I said it. Good. All right.
Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kish and seconded by Commissioner Maloney. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. I forgot to close the public hearing, didn't I? I closed the public hearing. I retroactively closed the public hearing. Item number 9 is staff communications. Do we have any interesting facts from our wonderful staff?
Just a couple, Mr. Chairman, and Commission. The rezoning effort for the PAD on EMR Phase 3 that you considered at the January meeting, recommended approval of council, was in fact approved by council. So that's moved forward. And then item B on here is update of legislative issues. We've got some communication from the Arizona chapter of the American Planning Association of some initiatives that the state legislature is undertaking. And just a couple that I'd highlight for you that we, depending on the outcome of the bills, you may see some ordinance changes come back before this body and through this body in the future. One would be essentially requiring small cellular technology to be deployed on city right-of-way and city infrastructure. So you may see some revisions to the zoning ordinance to allow that if this legislation does in fact pass. Another one is there has been some bill in the legislature in order to clarify the requirements and so forth in the process for protesting a zoning change, just to clarify that by the state legislature and clarify state law. So pending the outcome of that proposed legislation, you would see a revision to our zoning ordinance. So those are the two that I just wanted to brief you on real quickly. Of course, this is all contingent. Any changes would be contingent on what the legislature does.
I just wanted to add a thank you for accommodating the change in our schedule. We greatly appreciate it, and it greatly helped 2 of our applicants. So I know they would say thank you to you if they hadn't already gone home.
Oh, that's right. We're on an off night, aren't we? I forgot about that. Any questions for staff?
I do. The new construction on Virginia, is that the tire place?
Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Commission, no, ma'am, that is not the new tire place. At Virginia and Pebble Creek Parkway is Live Goodyear, which is a multifamily project.
What?
Multifamily project.
Family. Oh, yes, yes, yes.
The name of it is Live Goodyear, L-I-V Goodyear.
Oh.
Is that the one behind the shopping center with King Ranch, between Bullard and Pebble? Is that at the halfway street? Between the shopping center and that linear park?
Yeah, it's between
Yes.
the Bullard Wash and the canal, the shopping center.
Where all the grading's going on right now.
That's
so
correct.
It's multifamily.
That's multifamily.
It's a very nice project, and it takes advantage of the Bullard Wash. We're really excited about it.
A couple of years ago, we proposed the district, which is right across from Roosevelt and Estrella. Is there anything going on with that at this point, or I think it was a couple of years ago now that was.
Yes, we the residential portion has a lot of interest. There's a multifamily developer who's looking at portion of the property, and then we had a pre-application meeting with Fulton Homes on the residential portion. Who Fulton Homes has been developing. What's the name of it in the East Valley? Cooley Station. Thank you, Mr. Bull. So we are very excited about, they used to build in Goodyear years and years ago, and we're very excited to potentially welcome them back to Goodyear. They're a quality builder and have been doing some cool stuff in the East Valley.
Cool. Thank you.
Any more questions for staff? Thank you very much. There being no further business to discuss, this meeting is adjourned. 7:27. Longest meeting of the year.
I know.
Lucky you.